This is Eileen Griffin with the Heartland View from the Heartland Daily News, bringing you public policy information and analysis that affect your life, your health, your freedoms, and the nation's economy. So there's no shortage of public policy news, so we're just going to jump right in. We're going to cover a wide variety of stories today and a number of things. There's a lot of things happening. So we're going to start with some election integrity updates. So several states have been working on election integrity issues, and the latest is the Arkansas legislature. They have passed a bill tightening some of the provisions of their election law. So what they're going to do is tighten up the in-person voting and signature verification requirements. They're going to change how requests for absentee ballots are made. They're going to transfer some authority from the local clerks to the election commission. And they're going to prohibit any person from being around the election area within 100 feet of a polling place during an election. Governor Asa Hutchinson has not publicly said whether he will plan to sign it or not, so we will wait and see. In the meantime, we're going to cover another state that's also working on election integrity. That's Arizona. So Arizona has implemented an election integrity law that's already been signed by that governor, Doug Ducey. This is a law that's going to protect them against private funding. So according to data from the Foundation for Government Accountability, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and his wife gave $350 million to a left-leaning technology group that then in turn issued grants to 49 different states. This translated into a significant amount of money to the state of Arizona, $5 million for that election. So their plan is to prevent billionaires from having an outsized influence on elections. Arizona State Representative Jake Hoffman said, quote, "In 2020, our nation saw a concerning new political tactic wherein big tech billionaires spent nearly $500 million influencing the administration of the general election through a series of nonprofits operated by Democrat political operatives," end quote. Governor Ducey said, quote, "With public confidence in our elections in peril, it's clear our elections must be pristine and above reproach and the sole purview of government," end quote. Okay, and in news about post-pandemic, we're talking a little bit about what changes have been made, what lessons have been learned. So 8 states have already enacted laws limiting government's emergency powers since the start of the pandemic. In response to the coronavirus pandemic, governors and state agencies in all 50 states relied on emergency power authority to enact stay-at-home orders, mask mandates, business closures, and other things. So since March of 2020, 10 bills in 8 states have already been signed into law that are aimed at increasing the legislator's ability to oversee the governor's powers. So it's not a universal authority. Laws were enacted in Arkansas, Colorado, Kansas, Kentucky, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Utah. The laws generally allow legislators to terminate emergency declarations that the governors had declared in order to restrict the governor's authority to regulate cities' business and county-level public health decisions. As of April 2020, legislatures in 33 states can vote to terminate a governor's emergency declaration. So these are all things coming out after the pandemic, lessons learned. We'll keep you informed as more of these things start getting implemented. And we're going to move on to budget and tax news. So Budget and Tax has a report that's aimed at declaring some information on the Biden tax plan. So President Biden has a $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan on the docket. And in order to implement that, he also has a proposal to increase corporate taxes, raising them from 21% to 28%. Now, most manufacturers already know this. This is not surprising to them, but a team of economists from Rice University also provided some data. They did a quantitative study that does indicate a significant loss of jobs within the U.S. within 2 years. Their projection is 1 million jobs lost. Most of these will be manufacturing jobs, which means they're well-paid positions and great roles for American workers and American families. So the president of the National Association of Manufacturers, Jay Timmons, said this will disadvantage Americans and advantage other countries. So in international business, we're going to give other countries an advantage. He said, quote, "After decades of advocating for a tax system that provides competitive rates and modern international tax provisions, manufacturers in America kept our promises. We increased wages and benefits for workers, we hired more workers, and we invested in our communities. All of these gains could be lost with the implementation of this tax hike." So, speaking of the Biden infrastructure plan, it's a perfect segue into our feature story, which is an article by Patrick Buchanan. So, Pat Buchanan talks about the Biden proposal, the infrastructure bill, as pushing the country away from a self-governed nation towards more government control and basically socialism. He says we're going to keep spending taxpayer money, increasing taxes, and significantly increasing the corporate tax rate will hurt businesses. So using all of this taxpayer hard-earned money to fund social agendas, various leftist priorities, and what Buchanan describes as the forever war, that's the battle against climate change, these priorities are going to continue to drain the American economy and taxpayer dollars. The final 2020 deficit exceeded $3 trillion, and the U.S. debt now exceeds the gross domestic product for the first time since World War II. And why is this happening? How do we get so deep in debt? And why aren't we working to get out of it? Well, we're developing a debtor nation, and Pat Buchanan says Americans in Congress fear the social, economic, and political consequences of a recession far more than inflation. We also still have the Fed artificially increasing the money that's in the system, keeping interest rates low, so money is easy to access and it's cheap. And the party that's usually tasked with fiscal discipline is currently weaker. That's the Republican Party. They're unable to effectively convince the public of the benefit of smaller government, balanced budgets, and fiscal responsibility. Some segments of American society are getting very comfortable with unemployment checks and stimulus checks. This is that money grows on trees concept, and people are getting comfortable with it. That's not good for our society. So, with easy money, government handouts, and congressional Republicans largely unable to stop the Democrat push for more spending, we can expect to continue to see spending, large spending bills, major spending initiatives, and continued increasing debt. And this will not go well for our country. And that's the story. That's our feature. That's it for this week's news, our public policy update from the Heartland View. If you'd like to see more stories, please go on our website, heartlanddailynews.com. And to support the Heartland Institute, you can go to the website, heartland.org. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Have a great week.